Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Brando. I'm back, man, with another video today. I want to talk about a topic that I feel like it don't get addressed a lot, and that's the race war we got going on in society that really never left. We got a lot going on, a lot of division. It's a lot of people that feel like it's a lot of white versus black, Asian or whatever versus black. It's a lot of people that's doing riots and protests all around the world. We see the situation with Cyrus Carmack Belton in North Carolina. He was killed a few years ago, leaving the convenience store, chased down, like an animal, killed by the owner of the store, and that man got off scot-free with his son. That was unfortunate. I honestly didn't know much about it at the time. I seen it through the press and the media and some blog pages. Rest in peace to him. We see the Carmelo Anthony situation. We killed Austin Metcalf allegedly, and it seems he was convicted of that. And you see a lot of the backlash that his father got from making the racist comments in his son's behalf. And I wouldn't even just say his son's behalf, but him as a person. He clearly not too fond of black people. But just to segue off of those topics, I want to say that me personally, I can't say I've had a lot of racial encounters, but it is a lot of undercover and I would say superficial racism. And what I mean by that, I've experienced a lot of people by that. What I mean by that is a lot of people that I've seen that are racist, they don't broadcast that vocally or give that impression right away or outright. So, and I remember I was walking maybe about 2 weeks ago in my neighborhood, and I was walking to my location, and I seen this older elderly white lady, and she had a cart. She was pushing a cart, and as he was going in the opposite direction of me, I was coming halfway up the block, but I was going to intersect with her, and I was about halfway up the block. I hadn't even made it to the stop sign yet, but she was already there. And she had seen me. When she turned her head to the right, she seen me coming up the block, and she kind of stopped. And it was just everybody else. They was driving, going different directions, stopping at the stop sign. Some people making turns. People was out there jogging and running just like me. And they were just, people were just living life, doing what they got to do for the day. Just doing what their regular routine, I guess. But for some reason, she was the only person that had that behavior. So I was, I'm an analytical person, so I watch and listen to everything. And I'm always I view my surroundings. I look at everything, so I'm pretty much nothing gets past me, especially in the broad daylight like that, because this is around maybe say about 1 p.m. But so as I was walking up to the corner of the block, I seen a lady. She kind of like stopped with her cart, and she paused, and she waited all the way till I crossed the stop sign, till I crossed the street, by the stop sign. And as I turned my head back and I looked over my shoulder, that's when she started to walk back in her direction, wherever she was going to. I don't know. And I guess she had on her mind maybe I was a man of color, a young man of color, and maybe she took me as a threat. I'm not quite sure. And it dawned on me. I was like, wow, that was very intriguing. I hadn't witnessed anything like that before. But that just goes to show me that, us as black people, we got melanated skin, and that's one of the most powerful things. Our skins are weapons that we to a lot of people that threat, should I say. But we really got a lot of power, more power than we know. And that's a gift and a curse, unfortunately, in this world of society. And a lot of people want to talk about the slave trade. That's not over with. That's over, should I say? But slavery itself is not, especially when it comes to prison. That is slavery. That is the modern day slavery, right? But I feel like sometimes people that have a racist mentality, their mind is in slavery. So, they're already fixated on what their bloodline is passed down towards them. And this don't always go for whites. This could be whites, Arabic, it could be maybe Spanish, Polish, German, whatever you may be. I don't look at color. I look at the heart. I look at the mind. I look at character. So I've never been a racist or colorist person. I get along with anyone as long as it's fair. If it's equal and mutual respect, if it's love, if it's integrity, if I see that, so if that's not involved, then I can't be around you. Of course, when it's, like the situation I just mentioned, that would be a lady that I wouldn't be making encounters with if I was to know her personally. But, I didn't think much of her because I don't know her, but I did see, okay, she see me as a threat. It had to be because nobody else done that. But yeah, like I said, I just want a lot of us to be careful. We already got a lot of division amongst each other as blacks with what we doing to each other, the violence. Social media play a big part. We already segregated in our own cities and states, and it's just so much going on in our households and families, and I get it, everybody don't get along. We have our tensions, but I just feel like in a time like this where there's so much going on with the world, the government, it's wars, it's many more wars that we should be fighting, that we should stick together to fight, should I say, instead of each other, that we can't see. And a lot of these people, they want us to knock each other off. They want us depopulated. They don't want us to rise up and be strong, and they don't want us to overcome what we already faced with, which is so many different battles that was placed amongst us before we was even here. And that's not to make excuses, that's just to tell y'all the reality. So if you somebody of African descent or African American descent, or you got that same color, or even if you don't, but if you can relate to me and you one of mine and you one of my people, especially, that's really what I'm speaking to, or you love my people just like me, we should stick together. I feel like every race should. So, not to put a color on it, but I'm addressing mine in particular because I love my people first and foremost. And as I mentioned before, I don't look at the color of the skin when it comes to, if you want to say the person who they are. I don't judge off of that. I don't look at that. It's not about that to me. Because if it was, then there would be a lot of people that are of different descents and different colors and different nationalities that I wouldn't associate with because of their skin color. Because I'm a social person, I can't get along with pretty much anybody. But like I said, it's about the mentality and the heart first, and that's what we should all be looking at. But just stay aware in this season, in this life, and forever. Stay aware, stay alert. That's what I encourage everybody to do. Research, stay wise. Understand the battles that we facing, because there's a lot going on right now. The media ain't gonna cover everything. The news definitely ain't gonna do it. I don't even watch the news. It's full of lies and made up, flabbergasted. I wouldn't say flabbergasted, but just depicted stories it's all about getting your emotions. So I don't even watch anything that's news or media based. A lot of this stuff comes from social media and my own research that I know of. So we just need to unify. That's what time it is for us as a people. We need to unify and understand what our true identity is, and what we're here for. Let's take back the communities that was put here in place for us, and that was this property that was stolen and being gentrified where we stay at. Let's try to build up our communities that a lot of us have torn down. Not me in particular, but the violence and the drugs that was put in place, and all of the wrongdoings that have been put in place and that we have partaked in as a people. So this ain't to blame nobody, but we all know who did that. We all know who made it hard with the economic system, the education system. Our kids and nieces and nephews and sisters, just like us, don't have the best education. So we must educate ourselves. We must become one. What we wasn't taught in school with the public education curriculum, we must do the best research to understand. A lot of us don't know our history the best way because we were stripped of that and lied to. That's falsified. So we just got to do what we can to become a better version of us every day. And that's what I pray for every night. And I encourage y'all to do the same. But the racial war is strong. I don't feel like it's going nowhere, honestly, but and this ain't for everybody. Of course, everyone that you may see of a different color is not a racist or a colorist, or they're not going to, they don't think like that. So I'm not saying if you black, you look at every person a different color on edge. You don't got to be like that, but just make sure that you always on alert and mindful of where you at and what's going on. Because I just feel like when you slip off, your mental aspect of thinking, when you let when you're so consumed with the wrong things, you're not there mentally, and that's when your mind is not really fully conscious. So you got to keep your conscious level high at all times, right? So that's what I will tell y'all. So whoever watching this, once again, we got a lot going on in this world. We always had a lot going on. It's a lot of distractions with the media, the social media, the public, a lot of songs. We got a lot of outrage, and I feel like what we should need to do with that is take that energy and reflect upon ourselves. And I'm not saying we don't got a reason to be angry, because we do. Us as blacks have suffered a lot. You know, we went through a lot before with the slave trade, civil rights, Jim Crow. We got a lot of police brutality still. You know, we ain't getting the best treatment when it comes to just everyday life, you know. So, but I feel like what we need to do is look at one another, look at ourselves as well. And like I said, remain conscious of the environments, because, you know, these other people, they don't really want us to thrive and succeed. You know, they don't want that, and we stronger together than apart, you know, so I always know that. You know, I ain't saying, you know, if people have differences, once again, like I stated, so, you know, I'm not saying we all going to agree 100%, because that's not true. I don't want to spread that, because that's a lie. That would be, you know, misleading. But understand that a disagreement and hatred is two different things, you know, so we need to stop the hate. You know, that's what I spread, and this is what I push. I don't push hate. I don't push that. I push love and unity. I push, you know, growth, development. I want to see us all win. I never been the person to hate. You know, I never did that, you know. So us as a people, we need to come together and just understand the bigger assignment. We know we got an enemy, a lot of them at that, but it's you know, you can never fight a war that you can't see. You know, I say that a lot, but when you know the war, when you know the enemy, should I say, you know, it's easy to attack that and go after that and be prepared. But when you so I feel like a lot of us as a black race and as a culture, we so confined and constricted and fighting amongst ourselves, and, you know, we only concerned with one aspect of living and one way of life and our everyday communities and environments, that we don't even know that all this was put in place by design for us to be, you know, desecrating, depopulating each other and dehumanizing each other. And, you know, we so misguided in the wrong way that we don't really even know what we're here for. So, you know, because we honestly the biggest threat on earth, especially when we unified and really conformed as one. And so, yeah, that's what I want to leave y'all with today, man. But so, yeah, I just want to say I love everybody, you know, even the ones that may not like me, you know. Whoever that may be, I still pray for y'all. But like I said, we all as one. You know, we all one people, especially if you my color. If you got the same color skin as me, I don't look down on. I love you, you know. And like I said, all of us ain't gonna agree at the same time on the same topic or in the same situation, in the same environment. But we need to learn how to separate our emotions from the reality. That's a big thing in our culture. But we got a lot of people that's against us, man. It's a bad time to be separating and continuing the division, because, you know, we paying a lot of people with our dysfunction, the ignorance, the stupidity, the blatant, should I say, dishonor of one another. So that's another thing. You know, we're making so many people wealthy because, you know, that's what they want, and this is a part of the programming and should I say, the systematic oppression that's been in place centuries ago, before some of us was even here. So our forefathers, they ain't fight for this. They ain't want this. You know, this wasn't what they died for. You know, but you know, the strongest thing you could have is to me, in my mind, the strongest thing anybody can have is a righteous mind and a conscious mind, and we need to have a unified spirit and a unified body and as one. So when we got that, and when we develop that and begin to move as one, we're gonna become unstoppable. And that's not what the enemy want. You know, the white man don't want that. You know, they don't want that. The real enemy, the one that's, you know, sitting high and looking at us like we nothing. You know, that's laughing while we knock each other off, while we laugh at each other downfall, while we don't help, while we, you know, stuck looking for answers and depending on them to get our rent paid and help us eat, fund our education. You know, they paying taxes, and that's going to everybody but us. We ain't got no land, no property, and a lot of things like that. All of the land we do stay on, we don't own it, and we paying rent. You know, we don't got, and if you do got a house, you paying taxes on that. So, you know, it's just, it's so many things. We got car notes and payments and all this stuff that go towards the government, taxes on everything. Every price inflation so high. Some people can't even eat, and if they can't even get $100 worth of food. Ain't really nothing no more like it used to be. Some people still depending on WIC and Link and all of that. So it's just, you know, a lot of y'all get what I'm saying, and some may not. But what I'm trying to say, to end the story, the entire synopsis of it is, it's just time to look at the bigger picture, you know, and get serious about life. Because a lot of y'all are not serious and don't know the assignment at that, and don't know what you're here for. And if you don't, you know, I understand, because I was in that season. But, you know, pray on that and really ask God for guidance. But most of all, let's stick together, man. So, I love y'all. You know, y'all be safe. You know, y'all be peaceful, and let's just stay together. Let's stick together, and let's fight the real war that's ahead of us and that's been amongst us. And let's not fight each other. Let's end that. Peace and love.